Hello and welcome to a game spotlight on Creeper World 3 Arc Eternal. Now this is an RTS game made by Knucklecracker and poses an interesting strategic challenge where your enemy isn't really fighting you but just kind of growing. Now, I guess the best way to really explain what I'm trying to say here is to just jump into a mission. Now, the enemy is simply a goo, or creeper, which in its own is a liquid. And what the creeper attempts to do is just produce more of itself. As you can see, these three things, these emitters as they're called, produce creeper. So if I unpause the game really quick, you can see they are producing creeper. Now I'm going to start off this game by putting down my command pod, as you always need to do. And I'm going to start building some things. Now the collectors, for instance, what they do is based on the area, as you see this little white kind of circle around it, the area, that's its effective area. Meaning if I were to stick two of them next to each other, they would not do what they do right next to each other because they're in each other's area. That's why I'm spreading them out. Now collectors produce power, which is the main resource in this game. So what you do with power is you can use it to send packets. If you see those little white things coming out of my command pod, those are packets. And they allow me to build and resupply ammo. So how about I just build up my power network a little bit more. I want a few more of these collectors. And we got a mortar. Now the mortar is the second type of gun. This is a rather early mission in the campaign, or the story missions, so I'm not going to be spoiling too much of the fancy technology that we see. So that should be good for the power network. Now most missions will require you to actually start fighting a little earlier than this, but this is a pretty easy mission. As I said, it's early on, trying to teach you what the game's going on. So now that I have plenty of power here, I'm going to start building some weapons. So we have our menu over here, and I'm going to select weapon, and I'm going to actually build some of our new thing, the mortar. So what the mortar is it's an artillery. And it destroys all of the creeper that is beneath it, or where the shell lands. So when the creeper gets hit by a mortar shell, all the creeper beneath it is destroyed. Which means the terrain heights, as you can tell there's a terrain height difference. Right here is this height of 6, and down here is a height of 1. And if you notice right here, this bar that my mouse is over, that bar tells you the terrain height. And it looks like the creeper destroyed a couple of my weapons, so let me just rebuild those at a safer position. So the terrain height is really important in this game, simply because creeper always flows to the lowest height. As you can see, there are 3 height bars of creeper right here. And if I go over it, now there's a little bit more than 3, as you can see by this graphic line. Now the height difference is when the mortar hits this level where there's barely any creeper, just a thin layer of it coming onto this cliff edge. It's only destroying what's on the cliff edge. If these mortars were to shoot the actual pit, they would destroy a lot more creeper. So I'm actually going to move that one forward and of course connect him to my network using the collectors. And now you see he's aiming for the thickest part and he's destroying much more creeper, forcing the creeper of course to flow back into this bottom piece of the bowl. So the main objective about these missions is to actually destroy all of these emitters. Now as you can see, I'm currently in a stalemate with them where they can't really grow and I can't really attack them. So how about we build the laser guns and start basically the machine gun of the game and start taking some territory. Let's go back to weapons, build a few cannons. By a few I mean an overzealous number. And at the same time I'm actually going to build a little more power, just because I like to have plenty of it on hand. If you notice, my network is going red. This essentially means that I'm low on power, and if you look up here, energy is at plus 10.4, but my use is 10.6, so I'm at a deficit, meaning not everything is getting power. So my guns are going to start running out of ammo. Things will build more slowly until I can get through this deficit. Now the deficit's mostly caused by these reactors I built still have not been fully built. See how they're in the process of building? 40, 41, 42. Once they're done, this deficit should go away because they'll start producing power and stop taking power to build. There we go, the deficit is gone, and now these guns are allowing me to push forward. So how about I move down a level and of course reconnect the network so everyone is being supplied. Otherwise they can't get their ammo packets and they stop shooting after a little while. Okay, now that I've pushed this creeper back quite a bit, I'm going to move a few of these guns, not all of them yet, and I'm going to grab the Nullifier. Now with the Nullifier, what I can do is basically start to destroy this emitter. Now I'm going to speed it up again using these controls, and the Nullifier, when it builds, takes a little while to build, and once it's built, it also takes some time to charge, and you have to protect it this entire time. Once it charges, it fires off a laser at the emitter, destroying the emitter. If Creeper even touches the Nullifier while it's building its charge, the Nullifier gets destroyed. Unlike the other weapons that can actually survive a decent while sitting in the Creeper. Now this is a power node. It gives all of your structures some kind of augment. Now what the augment for a collector is, since it's not in a combat position, meaning if I put a gun over it, the gun would get bonus range and attack speed. However, it's not going to be able to reach either of these other two bowls. So what I'm going to do instead is just stick a collector there, give that plenty of range, and generate some more power. Now that all the creepers gone over here, I can move these guys. And I'm actually going to tackle this one since it's growing out of hand. So I'm going to put all of my guns over there, and I'm also going to take the two mortars and stick them up here, just out of the creeper's range. Now of course I need to connect everything to the network, so I will just do that really quickly. Create a few more collectors so everything is able to work, and advance him forward. Now I'm going to fight on two fronts because I think it's possible. I think I have the power generation to do this. So let's build some turrets over here. Try and get myself a foothold to put down the Nullifier. So now my blasters are pushing a little hole in the creeper, which is going to allow me to, of course, push in for the Nullifier. Now, or not the Nullifier, sorry, the emitter. Now emitters are not the only enemy in this game. There are a couple others called runners and spores, and they both have their own problems associated with them, such as some of the runners will disable your turrets, the spores fly, meaning only a certain type of weapon can actually attack them. So they pose different challenges and defenses you need to actually incorporate. But for this mission, all we have are a couple emitters, so it should be relatively easy to take them out. Move those up. Looks like I can build my Nullifier now. right there. It's not connected to the network, and because it isn't, it's not going to get power. So how about we build a collector to connect it to our network? And of course, build a couple collectors down here in our little foothold. Now I'm going to move these guns out to act as borders for this kind of invasion, just pushing into the one side of this. And I'm even going to move these up so they do more damage, because like I said, the lower level they attack on, like the more creeper they shoot through, the more damage they ultimately will do. So that nullifier is getting ammo, which means it is charging up. It's about to take out that emitter. And I can build my last nullifier now. Put it right there. And I'll speed up this. Let it build. And let it take out the last emitter. There we go, we destroyed all the emitters, which is generally the primary objective. However, you see this thing? This key? Well, for the story missions, you need to collect gate keys to move on. So, in order to collect them, you just have to connect them to the network, which I will do right there. And of course, speed up that building process. Now, once it gets connected to the network, I automatically collect it, and I've completed the objective of this mission. I collected the Star Sync Shield Key, and I have victory. So I will claim my victory, and of course once you do this, you can submit your score if you believe you've beaten it in, 30 seconds, couple minutes. Add a little competition to the game. I'm just going to continue without submitting, and head back. Now, of course, there are tons of missions. This is an early one, as I said, and you move through them, each of them, until you can unlock these other zones. So that way, you actually understand the game a little bit before going for the really challenging modes. Now, to close out of the map and go back, the Tormented Space Prospector Zone, they're similar, but both different. They have different objectives. They're, again, stars with planets that you can fight on. Of course, these planets have a lot more challenge to them, and there are a lot more of them. So, there's a lot. These are stars. There's probably 100 stars in this sector, and each of them have a varying number of planets. Such as this star, the one that I'm currently on, has 4 planets. So 4 missions. Now the same thing goes for the Prospector Zone. So if we jump over here, now this star only has 1 planet, but again, there's this huge collection of stars, each with a varying number of planets. And the Alpha Sector is kinda similar, except this is really the beta testers' world. This is where they had some fun. Now, if I go to the sector map on this one, you're going to notice these are actually names. Rather than just being worlds, these have names associated to them. And if you look here, Virgil W. This is Knucklecracker. This is the username he goes by on some websites, such as the forum page for Creeper World. And these are the worlds he has made. And some of them have very interesting challenges where the normal enemies are not all there. For example, Chimera, I believe, is an example of this. Chimera uses something he calls Creeple Script to create an enemy that is coded, basically, one that is not normal. So it's not an emitter, it's not a spore, it doesn't follow normal logic, it's completely unique to this map, basically. Now, Creeple Script is used in projects where you can actually create your own worlds, and you can load in Creeple Script onto a Creeple core, I believe. One of the pieces that you can place down if you go into the worlds. So aside from being able to create your very own world in the projects, you can actually check out all of the other players' worlds. Colonial Space is the multiplayer for this, where you can look at all of the different maps people have made. And of course you can sort them. So if we click on newest, the newest one out is by someone called Chaos Overlord, and he has its own map, probably with its own story and its own enemies, its own difficulty. He completely custom made his map, so yeah. And of course there are dozens of these you can check out. I think there are probably hundreds at this point, but there's just page after page after page. There are 179 pages of 9 maps. That's how many are currently made, more constantly being made. And of course you can, instead of sorting them by newest, you can reverse sort, so you find the oldest one. You can sort them by rating, you know, which one is the highest rated, which one has the best scores. This one appears to be some kind of asteroid map, which I suppose would probably be pretty fun to play. But anyway, you can check out all of the other players' creations in Colonial Space. So not only did Knucklecracker and his beta tester team, which were all the other names, if I forgot to mention that. So you have Knucklecracker and all of his beta testers. They created their own worlds, each with their own difficulties, and you're going to see a lot of unique stuff in this sector. And aside from just them making maps, players make maps, and then there's something called the DMD, which is the dial map device. Now what this is basically you take a random seed, so we could take 3 threes if we wanted to for a seed, and we can rescale the map size, change the theme, pan the map over. You can change almost everything about this seeded map. It's a map that you can edit to your own liking. If you want, you can add one to the seed and it will change the map slightly. Of course, the seed is where it starts, and pseudo-random number generator allows you to create pretty much everything. If you want to throw in resource, you can throw in resource packs, you can throw in technology packs. Maybe there will be some freeze objectives that will help you freeze the creeper from advancing. Maybe throw in some ores, you can build anti-creeper. Of course, you can limit the units, so if you want to say you can only have a few collectors, you know, so you can only have 4 collectors. Now that last mission I just showed, I used dozens of collectors, and this would limit them to 4 on this map, which would be quite a challenge, especially if they have to use reactors, because reactors are not the most efficient thing to start building right off, since they cost 50 energy, where collectors cost only 5. And of course you can limit the weapons, saying, you know, you can't use mortars, you can't use strafers or bombers, you have to only use pulse cannons, nullifiers, beams, and snipers, which of course adds more challenge. Now when you actually go down and click launch mission, you'll be set into the world and you'll be told to play it, and if you manage to beat it, then you will be allowed to name it. As you can see, this person has named this one Trollolololol map, and because he has named it that, I can launch the mission. Since he's beaten it, he's proven it's possible to beat, well, I guess I can try it. So with that, it brings us to the end of the game Spotlight. Now, I highly recommend this if you really enjoy RTS games. I recommend you definitely check it out. You can buy it on Steam or Knucklecracker's website. Both links will be in the description, as well as the forum page. So, I thank you all for watching.